Drew Harmon's fingers quivered as they gripped the steering wheel, his mind racing faster than the car tearing down the road. His wife's distressed voice still rang in his ears. Just 20 minutes ago, he'd been reviewing architectural plans for Riverview Heights, a high-end development that promised to elevate his career to legendary status. Then the phone rang. Drew. Vanessa's voice had cracked with fear. "Come home. Now." Tires screeched as he pulled into the driveway of the home he'd spent 2 painstaking years designing. 3 police vehicles flanked the modern structure, their flashing lights casting a surreal glow over the sleek lines and glass facade. Lily, his 16-year-old daughter, came running toward him, her tear-streaked face smeared with mascara. "Dad, please," she cried, grabbing onto his arm. "Let Mom explain." Brushing past her gently, Drew stepped through the front door. The smell hit first, sharp, metallic, unmistakable. Blood. His gaze swept over the white walls of the living room, now defiled with splashes of crimson. In the middle of it all stood Vanessa, shaking, her clothes soaked in blood, a middle-aged detective beside her. "Mr. Harmon," the man said, stepping forward. "Detective Thornton, there's been an incident." Before he could say more, Vanessa interrupted. "I killed him, Drew." Her voice was brittle, unsteady. "He broke in, had a knife. I didn't have a choice." On the floor, partially covered by a sheet, lay a man's body. A knife, sealed inside an evidence bag, rested on the coffee table. "We believe it was self-defense," the detective explained. "The deceased is Quentin Doyle. He has a record for breaking and entering." But something about it all felt off. Drew scanned the room again. No broken windows. No kicked-in doors. Nothing out of place, except everything. Vanessa, who once shrieked at a spider in the laundry room, had managed to kill a knife-wielding intruder. While the officers continued their work, Drew noticed Vanessa's phone buzzing on the hallway table. Though he had always respected her privacy, something compelled him to look. A text message lit up the screen. From Preston. "Are you all right? What happened? Call me ASAP. Preston Walsh." The name hit him like ice water down his spine. 6 months earlier, Preston had joined the Riverview Project as a landscape architect. Since then, he'd spent a suspicious amount of time around Vanessa, helping with backyard designs. Drew had chalked it up to her enthusiasm for the renovations. Until now. That night, once Lily had gone to bed and Vanessa had taken a sedative, Drew sat down in his office. His architect's mind, trained for precision and planning, began connecting the dots. Bank records revealed unusual cash withdrawals. Phone logs showed an overwhelming number of texts between Vanessa and Preston. Then came the clincher, a hidden email account filled with romantic messages and plans to run away together. But who exactly was the dead man? Why had Quentin Doyle ended up in their house? Drew searched through public records and found the link. Doyle had once worked on one of Preston's earlier projects. His criminal history included a violent assault following a work dispute. By the time the sun broke over the horizon, Drew had formed a chilling theory. Preston had involved Doyle in some plan that had gone awry. Now, Vanessa and her lover were scrambling to erase their mistakes. Staring out the window, Drew knew the man he had been the day before, ambitious, trusting, maybe even naive, was gone. In his place stood someone far colder, someone who wouldn't stop until every secret was unearthed. Retribution would come. It was only a matter of time. 3 weeks passed. The authorities concluded that Doyle had died while attempting to rob the Harmon home. The case was closed, ruled self-defense. Vanessa played the part of the traumatized wife flawlessly, attending counseling, whispering through tears, wearing her grief like a well-fitted mask. Drew, on the surface, looked like a devoted husband taking leave from work to support his shaken family. But beneath the facade, he had turned his office into a war room. Photos, maps, timelines, red string and thumbtack connecting every detail. Each night, after Vanessa took her pills, Drew worked in silence. He found records of secret trips Vanessa and Preston had taken to a secluded mountain cabin, property discreetly registered under a shell company tied to Preston. Bank statements pointed to large payments made from Preston to Doyle. And then came the most damning discovery: life insurance policies in Drew's name, with Vanessa as the sole beneficiary. His heart didn't ache anymore. It burned, with betrayal, with fury and with the cold fire of someone planning his next move carefully, deliberately. The truth was starting to crystallize. This wasn't a botched robbery. It had been a failed attempt on his life. Something had gone awry, and instead of Drew ending up dead, Quentin Doyle had. Determined to uncover the full picture, Drew enlisted the help of Malini Russo, a former military intelligence officer turned discreet private investigator, known for her sharp mind and low profile. With her dark hair and piercing eyes, Malini lacked the dramatics of TV crime fighters, but her precision and network of underground contacts made her formidable. "They are still in motion," Malini told him during a quiet meet-up at a diner 20 miles outside town. Preston's made 3 calls to a man named Boyd Weiler, dishonorably discharged from the military. Now he handles problems for clients with deep pockets. "They are trying to replace Doyle," Drew said, his tone flat, the calculation in his voice unmistakable. "Looks like it," Malini confirmed. "And they are getting reckless. Vanessa withdrew another $25,000 yesterday." Drew gave a slow, measured nod. "Keep surveillance on them. And Malini, I want audio. Every conversation. Every meeting." As Malini dug deeper, Drew maintained his carefully controlled persona at home. He told Vanessa therapy wasn't helping. Maybe they needed a clean slate. He floated the idea of taking sabbatical, selling the house, perhaps traveling to escape the place where everything had fallen apart. He even brought up reviewing their life insurance policies, noting the flash of tension in her eyes. "For Lily," he said gently, "we need to be sure she's secure, no matter what happens." He knew invoking their daughter would strike a nerve. Lily was Vanessa's one true soft spot, the only person she seemed to love without condition. Outside the home, Drew worked to rebuild alliances. He reached out to Sonny Blackwood, a seasoned developer with political reach who admired Drew's visionary designs. He reconnected with Tara Lennox, a high-powered attorney with a reputation for merciless strategy, posing his interests as legal advice for a friend. Most importantly, he struck up a casual rapport with Weston Miles, the tech magnate who had recently acquired the city's local news station. Over scotch and idle talk about design trends, Drew laid the foundation for future moves. Back at Riverview, he maintained a professional demeanor with Preston. Despite everything, Drew pretended to welcome his continued input on the project. During walkthroughs, he was friendly, even vulnerable. "Some days I think Vanessa blames me," Drew confided during one site visit, watching Preston closely. "She's been so distant. I worry about what we've become." Preston fumbled through empty reassurances, his gaze shifting awkwardly. That evening, surveillance photos captured him handing Vanessa a burner phone in the shadowy parking lot of a discount store. 2 months after Doyle's death, Drew received a call from Malini. "They are making their move," she said, skipping any pleasantries. "Preston met with Weiler yesterday, and I intercepted a text from your wife to Preston. Everything's ready for the cabin this weekend." Drew's pulse stayed steady. "Then we'll be ready, too," he replied. Opening his laptop, he reviewed the final pieces of his plan. For weeks, he'd been constructing his own masterpiece, not one of steel beams and glass walls, but of surveillance, evidence, and pressure points. Every angle had been accounted for, every outcome anticipated. 3 days remained. 3 days until Vanessa and Preston walked into the trap he'd designed for them. 3 days until betrayal met its reckoning. Friday arrived under a curtain of relentless rain that mirrored Drew's mood. At breakfast, he kissed Vanessa's cheek and told her he needed to head to the city for a last-minute meeting with investors concerned about delays at Riverview. "I'll be home late," he said, noting the subtle tension in her posture. "Drive safely," she answered, her smile tight and hollow. He drove to his office, ensuring he was seen entering the building, aware that Preston likely had someone keeping tabs. Inside, he slipped out through the back, where Malini waited in an unmarked vehicle. "They made the last moves this morning," she informed him as they pulled away. Vanessa packed a bag and told Lily she was staying with her sister, said her anxiety was too much. Preston canceled all his appointments for the weekend, claimed a family emergency. Drew nodded, and the cabin, wired top to bottom. Every room has audio and visual surveillance. We've got a team nearby, eyes on everything. By early afternoon, the plan was locked in place. Drew settled into a rented cabin about a mile from Preston's mountain hideaway, watching a bank of monitors that displayed multiple camera angles. At exactly 4:17 p.m., Vanessa's car pulled into the gravel driveway. Preston stepped out and greeted her with a kiss, passionate, unashamed, before leading her inside. Drew leaned back in his chair, calm and prepared. The final act had begun. Their conversation confirmed everything. They spoke freely, unaware that every word was being recorded, discussing the plan to make Drew's death look like a suicide. Preston had already laid the groundwork, quietly leaking stories that painted Drew as financially unstable and mismanaging the Riverview project. The narrative was set. Drew couldn't handle the pressure, and his tragic end would be the logical conclusion. "The insurance will cover everything," Vanessa said softly. "We just need to wait a respectful amount of time. Then we can start over." "Boyd's handled worse," Preston assured her. "He's cleaner than Doyle ever was. No mistakes this time." From his hidden vantage point, Drew listened, expression unreadable. He observed them the way a seasoned architect examines a crumbling structure, aware of every flaw, every weak point. At exactly 7:23 p.m., Boyd Weiler arrived. Drew sent a pre-written message. 12 minutes later, red and blue lights pierced the darkness as squad cars boxed in cabin. Rain poured down as officers fanned out. Detective Thornton, now fully briefed on the month of evidence Drew had gathered, led the takedown. Boyd made a break for it, but didn't get far. Preston tried to play innocent, but the wiretap had captured every damning detail. Vanessa didn't even resist, just sank into a chair, the illusion she'd upheld for so long crumbling into silence. While it all unraveled, Drew was precisely where he needed to be, miles away, sipping wine at a charity gala, photographed beside Sonny Blackwood and half the city's power elite. Tara Lennox stood at the ready, briefcase in hand. West and Miles made sure the media wouldn't twist the story into tabloid bait. It would be reported as a dismantled criminal operation, not a domestic scandal. By midnight, Drew was giving his formal statement to the authorities, wearing the mask of a devastated husband with practiced ease. The officers nodded sympathetically, none the wiser. But the real triumph came the next day. Behind the attempted murder was a far more sophisticated scheme. Financial records linked Preston to long-term embezzlement across several developments, including Riverview Heights. Vanessa, with her financial background, had laundered the stolen funds through a maze of shell companies. Drew hadn't just been a nuisance to their affair. He had unknowingly stumbled onto the financial discrepancies, making him a liability they needed to erase. The charges were staggering: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, financial fraud, money laundering, and more. The evidence was overwhelming, the case airtight. Faced with the reality, both Preston and Vanessa accepted plea deals. He received 25 years. She got 17. As for Boyd Weiler, his criminal history sealed his fate. He would die behind bars. During interrogation, Boyd revealed that Quentin Doyle hadn't been sent to kill Drew after all. He'd been hired to steal documents, plans, financial reports, anything that could expose Preston and Vanessa's operation. Vanessa killed him during an argument about money, and then staged the scene as a robbery gone wrong. 6 months later, Drew sat in his newly restored home office, blueprint spread before him. He was finalizing a bold new urban revitalization project that would define his legacy. Across the room, Lily sat drawing her own architectural ideas, the same natural gift shining through that once fueled Drew's rise. His phone buzzed. A message from Marlene. Hearing just ended. Vanessa's appeal denied. Thought you'd want to know. Drew replied with a short acknowledgement, then turned back to his work. There was no joy, no vindication, only the calm satisfaction of knowing justice had prevailed. The world now knew what became of those who betrayed Drew Harmon. He hadn't raised his voice or his hand. He'd simply used the precision and foresight that made him a great architect to dismantle their scheme, brick by brick, until nothing remained. As night fell, Drew glanced outside of the quiet neighborhood he once shared with Vanessa. People still talked, but the tone had changed. There was a quiet respect now, and a trace of fear. They had seen a man transformed, from admired designer to master strategist who executed flawless vengeance without a single misstep. He shut his laptop and joined Lily for dinner. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new buildings to shape. But if anyone else ever tried what Preston and Vanessa had, they'd learn what they did too late. Drew Harmon didn't just build structures. He built consequences, and his blueprints never failed.